Good afternoon and welcome to the webinar SAP IQ 16 Edge Edition, subtitled The Affordable High Performance Analytical Database Engine. My name is Peter Dobler. I'm the CEO and founder of Dobler Consulting. And in today's agenda, we will go through a quick introduction of Dobler Consulting, sponsor of this event, and then we'll have Andrew Neugebauer from SAP talk to us about today's data challenges and what can be done about it. And then the next step will be going into SAP IQ 16, the Edge Edition, to give you a little bit in-depth information on what this is, how it's comprised. And then probably most importantly, give you a little bit of a real scenario comparing SAP Edge IQ 16 Edge Edition with Microsoft SQL Server 2012. We will see some performance comparisons, and we'll go a little bit more in technical detail on similarities and differences. There's way more behind the scenes, so if you want to have more information about that, we can probably take this on a more one-to-one communication. And finally, we have a package offer from Dobler Consulting to make it really, really easy to implement SAP IQ 16 Edge Edition in your environment, regardless if you already have a system or not. And at the end, we do a Q&A session. Who's Dobler Consulting? Dobler Consulting is in business for quite some time. We are a marquee SAP and Sybase partner for many years now. We act as the trusted advisor of many of our clients. We are specialized in end-to-end design and deployment, reviews, optimization, performance and tuning, high availability reviews. We do health checks. We do analysis of the systems. We have a training program that's highly sought after right now. We are also a licensed reseller of SAP database and technology software, including all the Sybase, now SAP product, the portfolio, the IQs, ASE, Rep Server, Power Designer, as well as SAP HANA. And we provide database managed services in an ongoing support and preventative maintenance mode to our clients. And we're located in Tampa, Florida. Besides SAP, we're also a Microsoft partner, and we also serve Oracle clients as well. And after this quick introduction, I'd like to introduce Andrew Neugebauer, product manager at SAP, specialized in SAP IQ, and he will talk to us about today's data challenges and business challenges. Andrew?
Okay, great. Thanks, Peter. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining today. We really appreciate having you here. Peter, if we could go to the next slide, let's start talking about some of the business challenges facing everyone in the marketplace who's doing commerce today. This is not just a large enterprise problem anymore for business. It trickles down to the medium and small-sized businesses as well. With the internet and everyone being so connected, the challenges are very similar. The way you solve those challenges can be a little bit different, and we'll look at that today. So what's happening out there in the marketplace today? We've got three big areas if you want to compete on the same level, if you're a smaller or medium-sized business with the larger enterprise businesses that are out there. You've got exploding data volumes. Data is knowledge. You need that information to be able to react quickly in the marketplace. You need the speed to be able to do those make those decisions. You've got to be able to be nimble, react, and give people what they want, or give your potential customers what they want. But at the same time, IT costs can increase. They can become more complex. you want to be able to minimize and simplify that aspect of getting these solutions so that you can compete effectively and differentiate yourself out in the marketplace. Some of the traditional relational database management systems that are out there are reaching their limits on being able to deliver this storage of large data quickly and at a low and economical cost today. So this is something that we'll look at on how we can help you with that. Let's look at the next slide, Peter. So in addition to what's happening out in the marketplace, there are these challenges that play into that. The first is around not having the insight of what's happening in the marketplace or even with your customers out there. So there are lost revenue opportunities that might be happening there. Around high cost and complexity, you want to be able to be the best in the marketplace, but there's often a price that comes with that. So you've got to be able to minimize those costs, minimize those complexities, but still be able to compete effectively out there. There are data management challenges that are there. The information and data growth is astronomical in the marketplace. The more information you have, the better decisions you can make, but you've got to be able to manage that effectively and cost effectively. Security is a huge area of concern here. I'm sure you've heard of the data breaches that have happened with Target and with Home Depot recently. That's first and foremost with the consumers' minds out there of making sure that information is secure. You don't want to be hacked either, so you've got to have an effective system in place for that. Slower performance as systems get bigger and bigger, the more data you store, often the penalty there is slower performance. In that area, you need a solution that will take away this roadblock and give you the ability to react quickly. So let's take a look at the next slide, Peter. There we go. So what's happening here with this data explosion? As you can see by this chart that's here, data growth has just taken off at a hockey stick pace here, starting around 2005, where it's just the data warehouses have gotten larger and larger. This is often at the enterprise level, but even the small and medium-sized businesses need to be able to have this information now to track and analyze and be able to get the best decisions that they can out of it. If you look on the right-hand chart here, the trend of analytics here, you can see that business decisions are becoming more and more important, being trended by analytics and being made through analytics. The number of end users accessing analytics is becoming higher and higher, so self-service is there. Peter's going to show you this with how you can use business objects with a system like this to give that access to users there. Response time access becomes faster, so there are several different dimensions in the analytics market where business, the types of things are becoming more and more critical. Analytics is becoming a must-have, not a nice-to-have for any size business in the marketplace. So we're looking for ways to help you be able to handle this through faster data loading, better storage optimization that's happening out there, faster speed, more insights into that. Let's go to the next slide, please. Some of the limits that are challenges with traditional database systems or row-based systems that are out there is the data loading speeds. There you can't get the data in as fast as you need to. Being able to have as many users on the system as you want and allowing them to do very complex queries or analytics processing to look for trends or patterns in the data. Allowing them to do unplanned queries in there, so doing some what-if analysis or ad hoc type analysis. Oftentimes the traditional systems just can't do that because they're not tuned to allow it. And then, of course, with the larger and larger data volumes, you've got the maintenance issues around indexing and storage that are here. And often these systems are configured for transactional or OLTP processing. They're not made for decision-making type systems. So that's where the solution that Dobler is going to present to you today affords you that, the ability to make these ad hoc queries, make these complex questions against the data, and come up with new insights in an affordable manner. So now you can have more information than you've ever imagined and still get sub-second query results around that. So let's go on to the next section here. We'll take a look at specifically here the IQ 16 Edge Edition and how this is the perfect tool to allow small and medium-sized enterprises address these business needs. This is built on the foundation of Sybase IQ 16, which was released 2 years ago. IQ itself has been in the marketplace since 1995. It's gone through an evolution that I'll show you in a few minutes, and innovation curve since that time to keep up with all of these challenges in the marketplace. So if we take a look at the IQ Edge Edition, there are three pillars of things that it's able to provide here: speed and flexibility, lower total cost of ownership, and a mature and proven product that's fully featured. So if we take a look at the speed and flexibility aspect of this, because of the innovative architecture that IQ has, it was the first columnar-based database put into the commercial marketplace. We're able to provide query speeds 10 to 1,000 times faster than the traditional row-based systems that you're used to using out there. We can allow ad hoc or on-the-fly queries to happen in real time. They don't have to be planned queries. These queries can be simple or complex. It can be unstructured or unstructured data, depending on your business needs. The lower total cost of ownership here, there are several ways that IQ affords that to you. The first is the inherent data compression within IQ. Since it is a columnar-based system, it's a much more efficient way of storing the information. And over a traditional row-based system, the compression rates are often 50 to 70% of the input data that's there without the bloat that a row-based system often gives you. So what the benefit of that is, it requires less storage, less maintenance, smaller backups that have to happen there, and it makes it a very easy to use system, requires minimal training. If your DBAs are used to working with row-based systems, the shift over to IQ is very simple. It's also a great way to have an external consultant help you with this as well if you don't have that internal expertise. It minimizes the amount of work that they have to do as well. And as I mentioned, IQ is a mature and proven product, the foundation of this Edge Edition. We've got over 4,000 installations of IQ itself in the marketplace with very high customer satisfaction rates out there. The market tracking analysts like Forrester and Gartner regard us as one of the leading products in the marketplace. So let's move on to the next slide here. As far as technology leadership out there, we've got leading performance in both scale and benchmarks. We recently released a couple Guinness records with the world's largest database and the largest or the fastest load into a database through the Guinness. We've done some mindshare types of papers out there showing that we can load 10 petabytes of data into IQ and have a functioning system that is fast and performant out there. Not that this is necessarily something that you would be using in your environment, but it shows you that IQ can grow with you as your business grows, as your needs grow. Our market growth rate has been very fast over the last couple years, kind of showing along with that hockey stick that I showed you earlier around data growth trends. People are moving to IQ as a means to solve these types of problems. And you can see here that there are some very well-known industry businesses that are using IQ across all different types of solutions. We've got transportation and logistics companies, security companies, Experian as an example of a data aggregator or information provider, reseller to people, investment banking type people, telecom, all different areas, different types of applications that can be built on the IQ Edge foundation. And let's move into the next slide and take a look at a little bit high level of what's inside IQ. So you can see here that there are 4 areas that really help build the foundation of IQ. We've got the query processor, we've got the column store technology, different types of data that can be stored in IQ, and a massively scalable grid architecture. If we look at the query processing and what that brings to you, it brings a mechanism to provide you an economical way to store the information, to manage workloads and make sure that all users on the system get the resources they need. They're not starved out waiting on another process to finish. Everyone gets a fair amount of resources to get the work done that they need simultaneously with other users in the system. The storage technology that's there is very flexible. It's got the leading compression algorithms to minimize the storage, and also the benefit of this is it increases the fetch time for the result sets there. If it's stored efficiently, it can be retrieved more efficiently as well. Flexible schemas for your data structures in here. So this helps with migration from other systems, being able to use either the same schemas that you've used in other database technologies to plug IQ into that system, or allows you to redesign it if you want at that time. And that's something Dobler can help you decide, what's the best way to do that type of a migration. Different types of data structures that we can have, structured, which is the traditional table type structure, semi-structured, which is some textual type information, or even fully unstructured type data types within the engine. On a scalability front, as you increase your workloads and increase the number of users, the amount of data in the system, there are various ways to scale up and scale out the system very efficiently without impacting the system, without having to totally rebuild it or re-architect it. It's a very kind system to allow you to grow as your business needs grow. And let's move on to the next slide. And as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to show you the foundation of the IQ Edge Edition. We started out in 2009 with the 15.0 series, or the 15 series for the Sybase IQ product line. And this laid the foundation for very large databases out there. So this is when people were moving from smaller systems that were under a terabyte often into the terabyte range of data that they were needing to analyze. And that lasted for about 3 to 5 years in there. And as we moved into the 16 product family, we were looking ahead and seeing that this data explosion was going to continue. The scalability needs were still going to need to be there and be even improved on that. So with 16, we even re-engineered our column store system to be able to handle that type of data structure and data volume, and kind of being a visionary here on where we're seeing things moving towards even 2018, 2020 with data management needs, and being able to allow you to get back to being able to handle large amounts of data efficiently at a low cost, easily, and be able to meet the needs of your business and compete with larger enterprises as well. So as we move forward, there is still a heavy investment going on within IQ. You'll see that it's also becoming part of the HANA data management platform as well. So SAP is definitely leveraging this technology to help with their new initiatives as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Peter, and he's going to start taking you through some of the solution aspects of the Edge Edition.
All right, thank you, Andrew. Very well overview of where IQ came from and what the challenges are that IQ was designed and is able to solve. Let's get a little bit deeper into the SAP IQ Edge Edition environment. In your typical business objects environment, for example, you have your business objects universe, and as you can see, the data, if you look at this graph here, moves from left to right, from the operational data all the way to the right to the answers. And along this journey, the data will be stored in a database. And traditionally, this database is SQL Server. That's in there. That's probably the most popular deployment of business objects today. But we learned that SQL Server has its limits on serving the business objects environment well. There are certain performance issues that come along, and there's always three parameters to a performance. There's the load speed, there's the query, and there's also the storage consumption. These three all go together, and you have to solve all three of them to actually be effective. With SAP IQ, if you look at this graph, and you look what's happening now, you only change one component down, and it makes a world of difference with IQ in the middle there. But it also demonstrates there is no change to the process and the applications that are on the left of the graph, and there's no change what's happening on the right of the graph. So I hate to stress the word plug and play, but that's more or less how IQ acts in an environment like this, specifically if there is a SQL Server environment involved as an underlying database for the business objects, BI and Analytics edition. So looking at that, if you move forward into the Edge Edition, so what do you actually want to achieve? And if you look at a little bit holistically, so we already talked about from Andrew's introduction, what is Edge Edition, what is IQ. Edge Edition is essentially a fully functional SAP IQ Enterprise Edition with all the functionality that you know or you want to use from this system, but it is limited in the number of cores. So you can't run it on a high core system, but you also can't run it in a multiplex. So these are the limitations that you have. However, what you're getting is a system that has a better price performance point than a similar sized system from SQL Server, and I'll explain in a minute why this is this way. The ease of deployment that we keep stressing with SAP IQ is the ease of use, and again, it's a plug-and-play like deployment, specifically with business objects, specifically going into a SQL Server environment. All the tools that you love around the database are still fully supported and require minimal or no changes to anything you're doing. The data types, moving the data from one database to another, because IQ has such a variety of data types, it can ingest any kind of sources into numerous data formats, and there's very seldom a situation where a data type cannot be integrated into IQ, and there's always workaround for that, but it's most of the time it is really getting the data in the right data type. And then there's the open architecture. IQ for years is based on an open architecture, connecting to everything and everybody, has open APIs. It's probably the most open system out there, and then communicates with pretty much anything and everything, offers you JDBC and ODBC access to the system at the same time. So now, probably get a little bit more into the depth of how does this actually stack up, and at the end of that I will show you how does this financially stacks up as well. What we did was we took two systems. We put them on identical hardware, we put them on the identical OS, identical infrastructure in the back end to make sure that there is no difference in the system. Both systems are running on Windows Server. So SAP IQ was running on Windows Server, obviously SQL Server running on Windows Server, and they had the same amount of RAM, same numbers of cores, the same back-end storage system, so that there is no difference in that. And if you look at the queries, there are queries. Most of the queries that we're running were aggregation queries, were group by queries, most of the time group by queries, a lot of joint queries, a lot of cross aggregation queries, and we run them through one by one. And this graph is no mistake. Queries that ran on SQL Server in the neighborhood of 30 minutes finished on IQ in seconds. There were some exceptions, specifically when we get into a little bit more of a situation where there was aggregation across joins, but both systems, the SQL Server system had a lot of indexes on it. On the IQ side, we just put in the standard indexes so that we didn't want to overtune these systems so that we get a really one-to-one comparison. What that kind of supports the statement that was made earlier, IQ is being 1,000 times faster than traditional RDBMS, we kind of put it to the test. The next performance matrix is the load time, and that's where there's the other component to it. As I said, there are three components to a performance in a database. It's the query performance, the load performance, and then the storage that's behind that, because the less storage, the faster you get the data to it. In the load time, the problem with traditional databases are the indexes. And if you're around this for a long time, you know what I'm talking about. Keeping up with the indexes in data loads is a nightmare. There have been a lot of new technology being implemented that makes this easier, but it's still a nightmare. It's still a lot of work behind that, and it doesn't get much faster. IQ does not require any index maintenance whatsoever. Every column is an index, and on top of that you can have some additional indexes, but the more you leave these indexes alone, the better. And that shows in the load time comparison here. Let's talk a little bit on storage compression. Compression is huge for IQ compared to SQL Server. Keep in mind, SQL Server has a standard page size of 8K. This means there has to be every data that you read from the disk is being read with 8K reads. And if you have an IQ system on the right-hand side that reads with 64 up to 512K block sizes, and the data is compressed at that, then you can imagine how much data can you bring in with one I/O from each of these systems into the memory. Just do the raw math on this one, and you will realize, wait a minute, just because of that, there is a huge performance advantage. It's not rocket science. It's simple math behind that. The rule of thumb, if you move a traditional database into IQ, is you take the raw data, and that is, I haven't seen any less, but then 70% compression goes right into that. Then you have your integrity indexes, which means the primary keys, the foreign keys, and all the good stuff that you have in there, which is already implemented in the raw on the IQ. And then you have performance indexes that come in every time somebody runs a new report. You have to have new indexes to make this report run faster. And the more indexes you put in, the more storage you use, and the slower the load times are getting. So it's kind of a rat race there that you get into, which we don't have to worry about on the IQ side. So now that I've talked to you a little bit about the performance comparison, I want to show you a little bit about how these two systems compare, what is similar, what is different, because the similarity will demonstrate or show you in more detail the plug-and-play type of implementation that can be achieved. The differences will show what do you get once you've done that, and that's very important. So you need to know if you take this step, where are the gains and why are the gains the way they are. So the two systems, SQL Server traditional DBMS Edge, IQ 16 Edge is a column store database, vastly different systems. IQ runs on multiple platforms, SQL Server runs only on Windows. An analytic system against the LDAP system, both are about the same age. Interestingly, they've been around for quite some time. The huge difference is the block sizes. As I explained before, how much data can you bring from the disk to the memory in one I/O? That makes all the difference in the world. And not in the Edge Edition, mind you, but IQ as a system, specifically the enterprise system, comes as a multiplex version where you can have a cluster node around a shared storage, which gives you huge horizontal scalability, meaning that you can grow your compute power around your data. So if you're running low on compute power in an enterprise system, you're just adding more nodes to the multiplex, and IQ's FlexQ technology allows you to spread queries across multiple nodes and what have you. What's new in 16 is essentially IQ is now not only a shared everything, which means that the system is going against a single store, and the compute is around that. It can also have a shared nothing, which means every CPU unit has its own store and then can be shared across multiple of these single store systems, and create a shared nothing cluster similar to SQL Server, where we know before, but it's worked a little bit differently. Or it can be a hybrid. We can do both. It depends on your environment. What's similar? Both are ANSI SQL compliant. Both have in-database analytic capabilities. They both have BI tools. Both have data integration tools. Requires separate license on IQ. SQL Server has everything's in the same box. Both come with database administration tools, monitoring tools. Both have unstructured data analytics capability. If I mean unstructured data analytics, this all goes down to full text search. So both systems are highly full text searchable. Here's the important thing. They're both SSAS compatible, meaning the analysis services, so the cubes. There's just nothing you have to do special to generate cubes out of IQ or SQL Server. Fully integrated in IS. So if you have cubes and you want to load the cubes through your integration services, you can do this same way you did it right now, or you know how to do it. And report services. We can connect the SQL Server reporting service environment straight to IQ, no changes necessary. So it's different. IQ is a data warehouse platform for extreme analytics. SQL Server is not. There are some initiatives that want to take SQL Server to the analytics platform with tools like X velocity and column store indexing, which is a good step. However, remember I introduced you to the three-leg performance methodology or performance metrics. It only addresses the query part of it. It completely disregards the storage part because it adds way more storage to your database, and it completely disregards the data load, what happens to the data load by using it. So it addresses one of the three issues, but not all three of them. Optimized bulk loading. SQL Server has its tools to load stuff. IQ can load much faster, and the graph before showed that. But IQ is doing analytics for way, way longer. Scalability goes up to petabytes. As Andrew said, there's a new Guinness World Record out there, achieved with a 20-node IQ cluster with 12 petabyte of storage behind that, largest ever built. SQL Server has a so-called limitation. The limitation is fairly easy. It's 32,767 files with a max file size of 16 terabyte, and you can do the math behind that. SQL Server's compression is not anywhere close to what IQ can do. They do have some compression, but it's way less, and it's not as sophisticated as IQ's compression. Even though SQL Server does compression, it cannot compress indexes. And there is a in-memory row-level versioning. That is new with IQ 16, and it's also IQ 16 Edge Edition. What this means is it brings row-level locking to IQ, which wasn't there in previous versions. Previous versions was IQ was a table locking system, was not built for LTP. And don't get too excited about that. It's still not an LTP system. What it does is it allows you to to design a system that is able to trickle feed. And trickle feed means instead of bulk load once a day, you want to do a continuous load of data into the system, and you don't want to worry about what is happening in the system already. Now with in-memory row-level versioning, that is possible, and it's actually very fast. And with SP08, that's the latest revision, row-level versioning is now available in the multiplex as well. N-bit indexing it doesn't sound like much, but it can be much. It has all to do with cardinality on your data and how big you want to store data. Before, IQ had 1, 2, and 3 byte token indexing. That's how IQ does behind the scenes the indexing. With the n-bit indexes, it can be anything in between. What it means is compression ratios are going down even more. It allows to really compress your index access to the data. Unbelievably, how this variable n-bit indexes will take care of compression. And then there's the real-time loading behind that. Lastly, going through this whole thing, IQ is fully LDAP, meaning IQ can integrate it into an Active Directory environment. What I put in there is the column-based storage indexing. That's the X velocity reference I put in, so that's, keep in mind that's out there. One thing I want to point out on this here, there's actually two. The reason why traditional databases are running into limits with BI and data warehousing are the ad hoc users. Reason for that is by rule, an index can only be used once for a table in a query. So that's why you have to have all these different indexes, so that if you have multiple combinations of queries, the optimizer knows to pick an index without you telling the optimizer which index to choose from. IQ doesn't care. IQ can, because it's column-based, it's not table-based, IQ picks the right index in a combination of indexes throughout the entire query. You have a query, joins, subqueries, it doesn't matter. IQ can choose the right index. They can choose multiple indexes for the same column. Huge difference. And for really in-depth analytics, and you're running with analytical models, with predictive models that you create outside of the system. Let's say you have an analytical model tool like IBM's SSPS or what have you. If you generate PML code out of that, and you can completely load this into the database, and you can access these models as you would access a stored procedure or function. Huge increase in performance of that. You do not have to go. You don't have to go to an external server to run your models and bring the results back. And also by having it in the database, you solve a release management nightmare. So you have full. It's like the stored procedures. You have full access to it. And if you need more analytics, there are statistical libraries that you can link into the engine at runtime. Fuzzy Logic's libraries are well known in the IQ environment for that. So that's the feature comparison, going through similarities to differences and the side-by-side comparison. So now let's talk about the package offer that we put together. So step one, this will probably not fit for everybody, so before you decide to move forward with that, you probably want to know, is this for us? Is this for our environment? And we will provide a complimentary assessment for that. Just give us a call. We will meet with you, we will review your environment, review what you're having, what you want to achieve, and we will determine together if this is something that fits your needs. Absolutely complimentary, no charge at all. Then the package is pretty straightforward. So IQ Edge comes as a 4 CPU or a 4-core setup, up to 1 terabyte of storage, and with the maintenance support. Don't get too hung up on these numbers there. This is the entry level there. But this, as I said before, showed you before, a 4 terabyte SQL Server database can compress well below 1 terabyte in IQ, and it's 1 terabyte of compressed data. We put in 15 days of consulting services where we do the data migration, integration, and pretty much bring the IQ system production ready, so that no hassle for you to get the new system in place. And on top of that, because you probably didn't have a system before, we put a 90-day of remote database managed services where we actually run the system for you during first 90 days, can be extended for that. And the whole package together, we're putting on the market right now for $90,000. Keep in mind the IQ Edition 4-core setup right now is less money than the SQL Server 2012 Core Edition. Okay, that's the big news. It's a really good deal on this thing. Please give us a call. We're more than happy to talk about that, and we can walk you through the whole logistics that's behind this. But it essentially gets you up and going for a really good cost-benefit setup, and the performance price performance point is in my opinion, way better than the SQL Server one. Okay. Last thing is just to give you some resources to look at. There are things that you really should take a look at, especially the video ones. These are YouTube videos that are out there that you can look at. Really good ones. Recommend to look at that. There are the SAP community network has a lot of IQ behind that. The how-to tutorials are great. How to get your hand on, if you're not interested in any of that, but how to get your hand on the free Express or Enterprise Edition so that you can test around with that if you don't have it already. And lastly, here's our contact information. And at this point, I open it up for Q&A, so you can, if you're not used to our webinar setup, you have a Q&A window that you can use to communicate with me, so I can answer back. And one question just came in. Will this deck to be available? And said yes, it will be available for attendees. We're recording it as we're going, so there will be a recording available. The slide deck will be available as a PDF document, and it will also be available on our website, so you can come back and watch it another time. The PDF will be downloadable, so you can store it on your system. And so far, no other questions came in. I'll give it maybe another minute on the IQ and business objects setup. We have been asked several times in the past to help find out solutions, because the more BI, it comes to a question of how many users are using this BI, and the more people are using BI, the more people are using the reports and the dashboards and what have you, it really starts to show the shortcomings of a traditional database. So that's where you need a system that can produce these queries on demand as fast as possible, and IQ is this system that can produce queries on demand as fast as possible. And you've seen it. Integration is pretty simple. Plug and play. Hate to say it, but it is. No other questions came in so far, so at this point I want to thank everybody for attending. Watch out for an email telling you where you can access the recording and the downloads. And hopefully I'll see you in the next presentation. Andrew, thank you for joining and for your part of the presentation, and hope to see you next time.